Well, today's video is not going to be a heavy spiritual video. It's going to be more of an analysis of wayward renegades, blind hate for Latin or Latino people, as well as Palo Mayombe, Satnteria. Now, I want to say this. I have to ask, does Wayward Renegade know what the word Latin means? Does she even know what does it mean to be from a Latin country? And does she even know what a Latino is or a Latin person is? What does it mean when someone says that person's Latin? Well, for those listening, and if Wayward Renegade is listening, I look forward to educating those who have an open ear. Well, to be from a Latin country, what does it mean? It means you come from a country that speaks a language that's derived from Latin. Where is Latin derived? It is from Rome. So if you speak languages that derive from Latin, such as Français, Espanol, Portuguese, then you are Latin. And in a sense of today's understanding, Latino is pretty much a term in America. When a person says Latino, they think of the more lighter complected Hispanic person. But yet, we have people from Panama, we have people from DR, and again, this is kind of crazy because people would never ever think that people from Haiti or Haiti would be considered Latin as well. Because most people thought of Latin as someone who just speaks Spanish. Latin countries, as I stated, are countries that have a language that derived from Latin, and this is what makes up, quote unquote, your Latino. But again, this is it can be semantics. When you're talking about what Latin or Latino is, you're playing with semantics. You have to understand the linguistics behind terms because again, today, for the ignorant person, a Latino is just a light-skinned Hispanic person that speaks Spanish. Where you also have, as I digress, you have Latin America. So you have Brazil, you have Chile, you have all these, you have Venezuela, you have all these places, and even Mexico. This is how this is how we can get confused when we're looking at this because, when you hear Wayward Renegade talking, you're thinking, when you hear Wayward Renegade talking, you don't realize or you don't recognize that there is black people in that number which she's mentioning. You think that it is almost like she's speaking like it's a Mexican, and the people that outside of that are black. It's almost like Mexican against black. But where does this come from? This comes from where she lives. See, the thing about Wayward Renegade is this. Wayward Renegade lives in California. Now, a person, if you haven't been outside of California, you're going to think that that's what the whole world is built around. Now, her perspective is that these santeros and this and that, these people are fucked up. These people are fucked up, they're racist. Now, I'm not going to say that black people in California do not come across racism amongst Hispanics. But I say the Wayward Renegade, she has to understand that's because where she's from. Now, a person can't tell me that I don't know what she's talking about because I'm always down in California. And for me, being from the East Coast, when I come amongst these Hispanic people down in LA, I definitely can see the tension. I can definitely see the tension. I can definitely feel the tension, and I can definitely look at the insecurity in some of these Mexican people's eyes. Because when they see a black man walk through, it's almost like, what the fuck are you doing here? Like, it's the look that they give you, like, oh, there's this person, he probably knows that I probably practice racism. You can see the insecurity in their eyes. But a person has to go deep in the understanding. Now, me being from a Latin Caribbean country and coming into America, I would say this. What is it? Could it be that people like these people are fearful? And this is like the understanding and the lack of understanding that exists. Because think about it, for the black American that's on edge about people when they're a little scary and a little weary, is this. When we come from these foreign countries, we have to put on, let's just say this. We came from countries into America, and what did we experience from black Americans? We experienced, go back to your fucking country, you fucking stinking Africans, you stinking fucking Haitians, African booty scratchers. This is what we experience. Clowning, joking, this motherfucker. Think about it. When these people come from foreign countries into America, they experience xenophobia amongst the African American community. And this may sound crazy, and this is probably something that people haven't heard me ever talk about, but when most of these people come from these countries and they have experienced this, it creates a distance amongst these people. And now these people feel like, okay, when these Hispanics or these Hispanics moved into California, the blacks would treat them fucking bad. It's just like the Irish when they came here, they was getting their ass kicked. So the Irish stuck amongst themselves. So when the Haitians came into America, the fucking black Americans was whooping their ass, taking their shit, beating them the fuck up. So what happened? Niggas had to put on boots, get down with the Haitian posse, and then start forming gangs such as Zoe Pound and putting in that fucking work, breaking shit off for niggas and making niggas respect the Zoe. Niggas had to do that shit. So when you see MS-13, you see the Serenos, you know what I'm saying? You see the North Side, you see the South Siders and shit like that. These gangs developed as a way to combat the situations that they were dealing with, the hostility that they were dealing with. So what did that create? It created distance. It created a sense of, this is what y'all people did to us. So now we sticking together on our side. The hate that produced hate. If you What part of the Nation of Islam? You probably heard that. But I'm not going to go too deep into that. But moving along, there are some points which Wayward Renegade makes, Miriam makes, which are true. But I'd say that her view of the world has to change. I think that she has to elevate to see things on a bigger scale. Because what she experienced in that location of her occupation is not what everyone sees. This does not speak for the entirety of Latin peoples. Now, I'm not going to knock and say that there's certain people that are not fearful of. I'm not going to say that there's not people that are fearful of us. There's not people that don't think. I'm not going to say that there's not people that don't think that if we or our people or black people learn spirituality, that they wouldn't be fearful even more. I'm not going to say that. But then again, you have to take consideration that there's also people that don't want this tradition falling, or traditions, whether it's Palo Mayombe, whether it's voodoo, falling into the wrong hands. They don't want to drop this into the hands of any fucking criminal or any type of person that's doing wrong out here. So when these people, based on their experience, their past experience, they look at the new person coming through that is a foreigner, they don't know this person. When you say foreign, it's all in the word foreign. Foreigner. You are a foreigner coming into this tradition. We see it. Now let me use an example. It's kind of like Trump. It's kind of like Trump administration, where he's like, you know what? These foreigners, they have to go through a thorough, they have to go through a thorough background check before they come into America. So it's somewhat like these traditions. If we're in the inner city and you want to come to this tradition, I got to do a thorough background check because I don't know you. But look at it like this. Going back to the example of Trump, a thorough background check before you come into America. Americans can go as they please. You know, Americans, you're American. So it's only right for people of that, people of that culture to have a border for anyone that's foreign to them. Yeah, it's easier for that person to say, whether they're from Cuba, to say, all right, you Cuban? All right, come on, you know what I'm saying? You're part of the culture. Because that's the cultural tie. But now you have someone that's foreign, I don't know, man. You something else. What's the tie? What's the connect? What connects us? Do we eat the same food? Do we eat the same food? Do we have the same culture? You know what I'm saying? So it's something that you got to think about. You know, when you're talking about downplaying Santeria, you downplay, Palo Mayombe. You know what I'm saying? These things you got to look at like this, man. When she says Palo, do you understand that Palo Mayombe is a tradition derived from Congo? And if you have the chance to travel or meet people from Cuba, you'll realize that there's different, the look of Cubans are very different. You may have a dark-skinned Cuban. You can have a light-skinned Cuban. You have a Cuban that looks white. You have the view of what a Cuban is very mixed. So now you get into this thing where you have people, you have Wayward Renegade talking down about Paulo, talking down about Santeria. Santeria is the same experience we had in Haiti. They had a tradition from Africa, and what they had to do was hide the tradition behind the images of Catholic saints. Same thing that happened in Haiti. Slave master was whooping us daily. He didn't want us to practice our rituals, so what do? We took the pictures, we took the pictures of the Catholic saints and put them on the wall. Hey, hey, master, such and such, we praising Jesus, we're praising all the saints and stuff like that. The same damn experience. So now, let me say something. Let's think about this for now. We Haitians come to America. Haitians stink. Haitians, listen, the 90s was a rough era for Haitians. The 80s, the 90s was a rough era for Haitians. There were people from Haiti that used to hide the fact that they were Haitian. I had a cousin that used to want me to lie for him and say that his mother was fucking a mixed Indian woman. And this nigga was darker than fucking midnight. This nigga wanted me to lie for him. But I never did. I always kept solid that I was Haitian. I took my L's. I took my ass whipping. Let me tell you something. There was a time when I came back to America, I had a very heavy accent. And this was, I think, what grade was this? This was the 7th grade. I came to America. People was clowning me because I had a fucking accent. And do you know that the black American students jumped me because I had an accent? That's called xenophobia. So you think people that went through this, when we came to America, you think we're just going to be buddy with person, just going to leave the door open? Nah. There's got to be a borderline where we have to pre-screen you, know who the fuck you are. So for you to be saying Latin, we gotta keep the border closed. Awesome, we gotta pre-screen you. Cause the way you was fucking us up, you think we're gonna give you something that you can turn around and fuck us up just like the white man? Come on. Nah, it ain't happening like that. So it's very crazy because it's something that a person really has to have an open ear to. You can't just be a person that's just living in one side of the world and think that the whole world revolves around your perspective. For me, I travel like almost every 2 to 3 weeks. So I'm always seeing different cultures, different way things move, you know what I'm saying? How people are whatsoever in different towns, different cities, different areas whatsoever. So I can say that, okay, this is how these people are, instead of jumping to conclusions and saying this is what it is. See, Cali is very divided. And that's where Wayward Renegade is from. Go down to the prison. You go down to the prisons. In the prisons in Cali, they're divided by race. On the East Coast, it's not like that. Yeah, you may have had in the past the UBN, the United Blood Nations, on Rikers Island that was basically banging and warring against the Latin kings and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? But on a total scale, diversity is very big on the East Coast. So that's why even on a gang level, you may find Puerto Ricans that are blood. You may find, you know what I'm saying? You may find white boys that are crippin' on the East Coast. You're gonna find a different persuasion on the East Coast, a diversity that doesn't exist on the West Coast. There's politics everywhere you go. It's just knowing about what terrain you're at. Because if you're just sitting back and just thinking the world is like this, you're gonna think that everybody in the traditions is fucked up. And even with what I just said about the borderline, the pre-screening, some people are not like that. That's why you find some Haitians that feel like, we're not going to initiate people that are not Haitian. Some Haitians feel like, fuck that. I'm going to initiate everyone. And then you have some people that are like, I'm not initiating no white folks. Everyone's different. And you can't go about saying that this is what every group, this is what every Latino person is like. So anyhow, I conclude this video. I think that I said enough tonight.